The text came in at 7:42 on a Tuesday night. I was sitting in my recliner, eating a can of beef stew because I couldn't afford anything better, when my phone buzzed against the armrest. I wiped my hands on my pants and picked it up, thinking it might be Derek checking in like he used to. Like he did before I handed over every penny I had to stay away from my family. I read it once. Then twice. Then a third time because the words wouldn't stick. They kept sliding off my brain like water off glass. My son. My only son. The boy I'd held in my arms at the hospital. The boy I'd worked double shifts for at the steel plant while my back screamed and my hands blistered. The boy whose college tuition I'd paid by skipping my own lunches for 3 years. He was telling me to stay away from his family. My family. My grandchildren. Emily, who was 7 and had my late wife Ridha's eyes. Jason, who was 5 and called me Papa Carl because he couldn't say grandfather. I read at the screen until my eyes burned. I must have read that sentence 100 times. Each time it hit me harder, like a punch to the chest. My hand root shaking. The phone slipped, clattered onto the floor, and I just sat there ring at the wall. 6 months earlier, Derek had come to my house. He'd looked me in the eyes and told me he was drowning. Business was failing. The bank was calling. They might lose the house. Rachel was crying at night. The kids didn't understand why there was no money for new clothes or school trips. He'd hugged me when I said yes. He'd cried on my shoulder like a little boy. "You're a lifesaver, Dad. I promise I'll pay you back. I promise." $327,000 That was the number. Everything I had. 35 years of working through the rust and heat and noise of the steel mill. The retirement fund I'd root when I was 40 and couldn't afford it. The savings account Ridha and I had built penny by penny for our golden years. And I'd handed it over without a second thought. Because he was my son. Because that's what fathers do. Now he was telling me to stay away. Like I was a stranger. Like I was some kind of threat. That I picked the phone up off the floor and called him. It went straight to voicemail after one ring. I called again. Same thing. I called a third time, and this time I heard his voice, recorded and cold, telling me to leave a message. "This is your father," I said, and my voice cracked. "Derek, what is this? What are you doing? Call me back." He didn't call back. The next morning, I drove to his house. I'd made that drive hundreds of times. 30 miles through the old neighborhood, past the diner where Ridha and I used to have breakfast, past the park where I taught Derek to ride a bike. The streets hadn't changed. But something had. Everything felt wrong. The colors were dimmer. The air was heavier. I pulled up to his house, the big colonial with the white pillars and the perfect lawn. It was a house I'd never been able to afford on my salary. But Derek had done well. He'd made something of himself. And now his something was sitting there, polished and clean, while I drove a 15-year-old truck with rust spots on the fenders. That I walked up to the front door. The new welcome mat said, "The Morrisons," in cursive letters. I knocked. No answer. I knocked harder. I could hear movement inside. Someone was there. The door opened a crack. Rachel's face red. She was my daughter-in-law. I'd known her since she was 19 years old. I'd welcomed her into my family. I'd treated her like my own daughter. Carl, she said. Not Dad. Not even a hello. Just my name, flat and cold. Where's Derek? He's not here. Where is he? I don't know. He's at work. It's Saturday. She didn't answer. She just stood there, blocking the door with her body. Rachel, what's going on? I got a text from him last night. Stay away from my family. What does that mean? She looked down at her feet. Carl, Derek just needs some space right now. Things have been stressful. The business, the kids. He's under a lot of pressure. I want to talk to him. Not right now. Rachel, I gave him everything. Everything. And now he won't even talk to me, she winced. For a second, I thought I saw something in her eyes. Sympathy, maybe. Or guilt. But then it was gone, replaced by something harder. I'm sorry, Carl. He'll call you when he's ready. She closed the door. Not slammed it. Just closed it, like I was a delivery man she was done with. I stood there for a long time. I could hear the kids inside. Emily laughing about something. Jason making car noises. They were in there, my grandkids, and I couldn't see them. Couldn't hug them. Couldn't tell them I loved them. I walked back to my truck and sat in the driver's seat for an hour. I just sat there, sta ring at the house. The curtains were drawn, but I could see shapes moving inside. Shadows of a family I used to be part of. I was just a check to them. A walking ATM who'd finally run out of money. That's the thought that finally made me start the engine and drive away. The next week was a blur. I called Derek every day. Every single day, I picked up that phone and dialed his number. Each time, it went to voicemail. I left messages. Dozens of them. I begged. I pleaded. I asked what I'd done wrong. I apologized for things I hadn't even done, just hoping he'd call back. That he never did. That I sta root showing up at his office. I'd park across the street and watch. I'd see him through the windows, walking around, talking to employees, laughing at something. He looked happy. He looked like a man who didn't have a car in the world. The day I saw the new truck was the day something broke inside me. It was a big Ford, brand new, shiny, with dealer plates still on it. Derek got in and drove away like he was king of the world. My money paid for that truck. Then I saw the boat in his driveway a few days later. Then the camper. Then the new furniture through the window. Then Rachel's designer shopping bags, which I'd only noticed because I'd sta root driving by their house every single night. That they were living the high life on my life savings. My 35-year RS. My bleeding hands. My skipped lunches. My dreams of a comfortable retirement. And I was sitting in my little house, eating canned soup and counting pennies, worried about whether I could afford to turn on the heat. The rage came then. Not the kind that burns hot and fast. This was cold. Deep. It settled into my bones like winter frost. That I knew I had to do something. I didn't know what yet. But something had to change. That I sta root at the courthouse. Old building, dusty floors, fluorescent lights that flickered and buzzed. The clerk, a young woman named Teresa, watched me shuffle through records for 3 days before she finally asked if she could help. "Whose file are you looking for, sir?" Her eyes were kind. I hadn't seen kindness in a long time. "Derek Morrison," I said. "He's my son." Her fingers clicked across the Kibo road. She scrolled for a minute, then frowned. "There's a lot here," she said. "Business records, property filings, tax documents." "What are you looking for?" "Everything," I said. "Print everything." She did. Pages and pages. I took them to a corner table and sta root reading. And that's when I found it. The lie. The beautiful, elaborate, perfectly constructed lie. Derek's business wasn't failing 6 months ago. It was fine. More than fine. Profits were up 15%. He'd just taken out a loan for a new rental property the week before he came to see me. The same week he'd come with his TRS and his hard luck story. That he took my money and used it to pay off that loan. Then he took out a bigger loan against the new property. He was leveraging my savings to build his empire. The rental properties. The truck. The boat. The camper. All of it was built on my back. I was a piggy bank. And he'd smashed me open that I walked out of that courthouse and didn't know where I was going. I just sta route walking. Past the old diner, past the park, past all the memories that were supposed to mean something. I kept walking until my feet hurt and my legs ached. And then I stopped. Right in the middle of the sidewalk. I stopped because I realized I was crying. That I stood there, a 72-year-old man crying on a public street, and I didn't see a who saw me. I'd lost my wife to cancer. I'd lost my son to greed. And I'd lost my retirement to a lie. But I wasn't going to lose my dignity. That was the moment I decided I would get it back. Every single penny. They were going to have to pry it from my cold, dead hands. But I was going to get my money back. That I spent the next 3 days inside my house. I didn't answer the door. I didn't answer the phone. I just sat in my recliner with that folder of records spread out on the coffee table, reading and rereading every single page. The property filings. The business licenses. The loan documents. I read them until the words sta route blurring together and my eyes felt like sandpaper. But I couldn't stop. Because every time I looked away, I saw Derek's face. The TRS he'd faked. The hugs he'd used to pick my pocket. The way he'd looked at me like I was nothing when I showed up at his house. That I needed to understand how he'd done it. How he'd planned this out so perfectly. And that's when I noticed the dates. The loan he'd taken out for the rental property was dated 3 days before he came to see me. 3 days. He'd already signed the papers. He'd already committed to buying that building. And then he'd come to me, hat in hand, begging for help. He'd gone into debt on purpose. He'd made a decision to put himself in a position where he needed my money. And then he'd made me feel like I was saving him. It was premeditated. Cold. Calculated. That I picked up my phone and called him again. I knew he wouldn't answer. But I wanted to hear his voicemail. I wanted to hear that recorded voice, the one that sounded so professional and distant. That please leave a message. I didn't leave one. I just hung up and sta read at the wall. The next day, I went to see a lawyer. His name was Harold Benson, and he practiced out of a strip mall office next to a laundromat. His sign was faded. His waiting room smelled like cigarettes. But he was cheap, and that's all I could afford. I told him my story. The money. The lies. The text message. The new truck. The boat. The camper. All of it. That he listened without interrupting. He took notes in a yellow legal pad with a pen that kept running out of ink. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. Mr. Morrison, I'm going to be honest with you. Please. You gave him that money voluntarily. There's no contract. No promissory note. Nothing in writing that says he has to pay you back. I have text messages. I have records of the dates. He shook his head. Text messages don't prove a loan. They just prove you had conversations. Without a signed agreement, he could stand up in court and say it was a gift. And you know what the judge is going to say? He's going to say, Mr. Morrison, did you give your son this money willingly? And you're going to say yes. And that's going to be the end of it. I sat there in that ugly office, feeling the walls closing in around me. What about fraud? I asked. He lied to me. He told me his business was failing, and it wasn't. Can you prove he knew his business wasn't failing when he told you that? I just showed you the loan documents. He bought a rental property 3 days before he came to me. And he could argue he was trying to save his business by diversifying. He could argue he was desperate and made a bad decision. You can't prove he knew exactly what he was doing. I stood up. My legs were shaking. So that's it, he gets to keep everything, I lose everything. Mr. Benson didn't answer. He just looked at me with those tired, old eyes, and I knew he'd seen this 100 times before. Fathers who gave everything to their children and got nothing back. He couldn't help me. Nobody could. I walked out of that office and stood in the parking lot, breathing hard. The sun was hot. My shirt was sticking to my back. And I felt like the whole world was spinning around me while I stood perfectly still. I'd given him everything. I'd trusted him. And now the law was telling me I'd made a mistake, and that was my fault, and there was nothing I could do about it. That I thought about Ameretha. I thought about how she believed in Derek until the very end. How she died thinking her son was a good man. And now I was the one who had to live with the truth. But I wasn't going to give up. I couldn't. Not after everything that I sta route looking for another lawyer. I called every number I could find. Family law, contract law, civil litigation. Some of them wouldn't even take my call. The ones who did listen for 5 minutes and then gave me the same answer H.A. Rold Benson gave me. No contract. No case. No hope. But one of them gave me a name. A young woman named Christine Reyes. She just opened her own practice. Small. Independent. Willing to take cases other lawyers wouldn't touch. She's a pit bull, the lawyer told me. She doesn't see a re about odds. She see a residential about justice. I called her the next day. Christine's office was in a converted house on the edge of town. There were plants everywhere. Books stacked on the floor. A cat sleeping in the window. She was maybe 35, with the arcade hair pulled back in a ponytail and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. She listened to my story the same way the others had. Quietly. Attentively. But when I finished, she didn't shake her head. Mr. Morrison, your son committed fraud. I thought it was just a verbal contract issue. She leaned four-way road. No. He made a material misrepresentation. He told you his business was failing when it wasn't. That's fraud. He induced you to give him money under false pretenses. But I gave it to him willingly. Because he lied to you. There's a difference. A gift obtained through fraud isn't a gift. It's theft. I felt something flicker in my chest. Something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hoped up. Can we prove it? I asked if we need to show that he knew his business wasn't failing. That he deliberately misrepresented his financial situation to get your money. She pulled out a notepad. What do you have? I told her about the property records. The loan documents. The business filings. The dates that didn't line up. I told her about the new truck and the boat and the camper. I told her about the text message, the one that said, "Stay away from my family." She wrote everything down. Her pen moved fast across the page. What about witnesses? She asked. Anybody who he heard him say the business was failing, anybody who knew he was lying. I thought about it. His wife. Rachel. She was there when he told me. She was crying too. Can she testify against him? She's his wife. She's not going to help me. Maybe not. But we can subpoena her. Make her testify. She doesn't have to volunteer anything. But under oath, she can't lie. I nodded. It felt like we were building something. Something real. The text message is interesting, she continued. Stay away from my family. That's not a request. That's a threat. It shows intent to cut you off after you'd given him the money. It supports the fraud argument. He blocked my number after that. I couldn't even call him. She made another note. Good. That's good. It shows a pattern of behavior. He took your money and then he disappeared. I sat back in my chair. My heart was pounding. Can we win? I asked. Christine looked at me for a long moment. I can't guarantee that, Mr. Morrison. But I can promise you this. I'll fight for you. Every step of the way. No matter how long it takes. I didn't have words to thank her. I just shook her hand and walked out of that office feeling lighter than I had in months. But that night, I had a visit. It was late, past 10. Someone knocked on my door. H.A. rode and fast. I looked through the peephole and saw Derek's face. His real face, not the smiling mask he wore for everyone else. He looked tired. Angry. A little SCA read that I opened the door. Derek. Dad. He pushed past me into the house. He didn't ask. He just walked in like he owned the place. I got a call from a lawyer, he said. Christine Reyes. She says you're going to sue me. I am. He turned around and faced me. You're going to sue your own son. You're going to steal your own father's life savings. I didn't steal anything. You gave me that money. You lied to me. You said your business was failing. It was. It was failing. I made it work after you gave me the money. That's not true. You bought a rental property 3 days before you came to me. 3 days. You were already doing fine. He didn't answer right away. I saw something flicker in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or fear. How do you know that? I did my homework, Derek. I know everything. I know about the loan. I know about the truck and the boat and the camper. I know you've been spending my money like it was yours. You gave it to me. I stepped closer to him. I could feel the heat coming off his body. Don't you understand? You were my whole life. You and Rida and the kids. That's all I had. And you took it and threw it away like it was nothing. Dad stay away from my family, I said, quoting his own words back to him. That's what you told me. That's what you said to your father. He stood there, frozen. I could see him thinking. Trying to find a way out. A way to twist this back on me. I'll make you a deal, he said finally. I'll give you back half. We'll call it even. No lawyers, no court, no scandal. Half $20,000 RS a year or for 10 year RS. I'll write you a check every December. I laughed. It came out hot RSH and ugly. 20,000 a year, that's not even enough to pay my property taxes. It's all I can afford. You bought a boat last week. A boat. You can afford that, but you can't afford to pay your father back. I'm not going to argue with you, Dad. Take the deal or don't. But if you sue me, I'll make your life a living hell. I'll have you evicted. I'll drag your name through the mud. I'll make sure everyone knows you're a bitter old man trying to destroy his own son. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This wasn't the boy I'd raised. This was a stranger. We wring my son's face. To get out of my house, I said. He didn't move. Dad I said, get out. He left. Slammed the door behind him. I heard his truck start up and roar away into the night. That I stood in the middle of my living room and took a deep breath. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But for the first time in months, I didn't feel weak. That I felt determined. The next morning, I called Christine and told her everything. The threat. The $20,000 offer. The way he tried to intimidate me. He's SCA red, she said. He knows you have a case. He wouldn't be offering you anything if he wasn't worried. What do I do? Let's file the lawsuit. Let him worry some more. And in the meantime, let's start gathering more evidence. What kind of evidence? I don't know yet. But something tells me there's more to this story than just the money. There's a reason he tried so hard to push you away. And I think we need to find out what it is. I hung up the phone and looked at my reflection in the window. Old. Worn down. But not broken. Not yet. That I root going to the diner every morning. Not because I was hungry. I couldn't afford to eat out. But because I needed to be around people. I needed to hear voices that weren't my own, see faces that weren't just the reflection in my window. The diner was called Millie's, and it was the kind of place where the coffee was always burnt and the waitresses called you Hon, whether they knew you or not. The regular RS were old men like me. Retirees. Widowers. Men who'd worked hard their whole lives and were now just marking time until the end. I sat in the same booth every day. Back corner, facing the door. Old habit from my steel plant days. Always know who's coming in. The first few days, nobody talked to me. I was the new guy. The stranger. But after a week, one of them came over. Big guy, broad shoulders, hands that looked like they'd been through a meat grinder. He sat down across from me without asking. Eddie, he said, sticking out his hand. You look like a man who's got a story. I shook his hand. Carl. Carl. What's your damage? I didn't know what he meant at first. Then I realized. He was asking what was wrong with me. Why I looked like a man who'd lost everything. That my son, I said. He took all my money and then told me to stay away from his family. Eddie nodded like that was the most normal thing in the world. Mine stole my truck. Sold it for scrap. He sold your truck, got clean now. Took a while. But he's back to being human again. Eddie leaned back in the booth. Your boy still running and spending. That's worse. That's the kind that thinks they got away with something. I told him the whole story. The money. The lies. The lawyer who said I had no case. The young woman who said I did. Derek's threat in my living room. Eddie listened without interrupting. When I finished, he just nodded. Wife's dead, 3 years. Figured. Men like us, we hold on to family too tight because we don't have anyone else. Makes us easy targets. Easy targets. That's right. Your son, he knew exactly what he was doing. Knew you'd give him anything because you didn't have nobody else. Knew you were lonely. Knew you were red of dying alone. The words hit me like a punch. He was right. Derek knew everything. He knew my weaknesses. He'd used them. So what do? I asked. Eddie shrugged. You fight. You got nothing else to lose, right? Might as well make him sweat. That became my motto. Make him sweat. I root going to the courthouse every day. Not to file things. Just to sit in the hallway and watch. I watched lawyers walk by with their briefcases. I watched clerks shuffle papers. I watched families crying and fighting and making up. I read the rhythms of the place. Who was important? Who could be trusted? After a few days, I root talking to the court reporters. The old ladies who typed everything on their little machines. They knew everyone. They knew every case. And they loved to gossip. Looking for something specific, one of them asked me. Her name was Betty. 65, dyed red hair, glasses on a chain around her neck. Just trying to understand how things work, I said. You got a case coming up, maybe. My son. He took my money. Betty's eyes lit up. Oh, honey. I see this every week. Families ring each other apart over money. It breaks my heart. Does anybody ever win? Sometimes. Depends on the judge. Depends on the evidence. Depends on the lawyer. She leaned closer. Who's your lawyer? Christine Reyes. Betty nodded approvingly. She's good. She's new, but she's good. Takes cases nobody else will touch. Got a reputation for fighting dirty. Fighting dirty, not dirty. Just, creative. She finds angles nobody else sees. That gave me hope. More than I'd had in a long time. The next day, I went back to Derek's neighborhood. Not to his house. I couldn't do that anymore. But I went to the street behind his house, the one that ran parallel to his back road. I walked up and down, looking at fences and trees and mailboxes. And then I saw Margaret that she was in her backyard, watering flowers. An old woman with white hair and a kind face. She looked up when she saw me. Can I help you? I walked over to the fence. I'm sorry to bother you, ma'am. I'm Carl Morrison. I live a few miles from here. The name's familiar. I'm Derek Morrison's father. Her face changed. Softened. Oh. Oh, honey. She set down her watering can and walked over to the fence. I've seen you. You used to come by more often. I did. But lately, I know. I know all about it. This neighborhood talks, you know. We see everything. The new truck, the boat, the camper. All of it. She shook her head. And your son, he never talks about you. Not once. Never. I asked him once. I said, Derek, where's your daddy? I used to see him here all the time. And he said, he's busy. Just like that. He's busy. I felt that familiar ache in my chest. The one that never quite went away. Can I ask you something? I said. Anything. Have you noticed anything else? Anything strange? Any visitors, any meetings, anything that didn't seem right? Margaret thought about it. She was the kind of woman who thought carefully before she spoke. There was a man, she said finally. Came by a few times. About 6 months ago, right around the time your son seemed to come into money. Nice California expensive suit. Didn't look like he belonged in this neighborhood. Did you see his face? Not clear RLY. But I saw his DARK sedan. Fancy. Drove up to Derek's house and stayed for hours. Happened 3 or 4 times. Did Derek ever talk about him? Never. But I saw them outside once. Having a conversation. Looked serious. Your son didn't look happy. I wrote down everything Margaret told me. The DARK sedan. The expensive suit. The timing. 6 months ago, right when Derek came to me with his story about the failing business, that I thanked her and walked back to my truck. My mind was racing. Who was this man? What did he have to do with Derek's sudden wealth, and why had Derek never mentioned him? The next day, I went back to the county records office. Teresa was there, the clerk who'd helped me before. Back again, she asked one more time. I need to look at something. What business partnerships? Any record of Derek Morrison doing business with anyone else? Any joint ventures, any partnerships, any corporations? Teresa typed into her computer. There's a lot of records here. Give me a minute. I waited while she scrolled and clicked and typed. The minutes stretched into an hour. I didn't see I had nowhere else to be. Found something, she said finally. Derek Morrison is listed as a partner in a limited liability corporation. The other partner is a man named Victor Stanhope. Victor Stanhope? Who's that? I don't know. But I can pull the filing. It says they formed the LLC about 8 months ago. Right before your son came into money. Print it. She handed me the papers. I read them right there in the courthouse hallway. The LLC was called Morrison Stanhope Properties. It had been registered 8 months ago. The purpose was real estate investment and management. And there was a clause in the partnership agreement. A clause that said if either partner wanted to dissolve the partnership, they had to buy out the other partner's share. At a price determined by an independent appraiser. I read at the paper. Something clicked into place. Something cold and ugly. Derek hadn't just been buying properties with my money. He was building something. Something with this Victor Stanhope. And he'd used my savings to do it. But why, and who was this man? I went back to the diner the next morning. Eddie was already there, nursing a cup of coffee. You look like you found something, he said. I found something, all right. I told him about Victor Stanhope. The LLC. The partnership agreement. You know what this means? Eddie asked. I have an idea. Your boy didn't just steal your money. He's using it to build a business with another man. A business you're not part of. A business he's never going to tell you about. But why he could have just taken the money and run? Why form a partnership? Eddie leaned back. Because he didn't want to run. He wanted to stay. He wanted to look successful. He wanted to show everyone he was a big shot. And he needed your money to do it. I sat there, processing. It made sense. It made terrible, horrible sense. That who's Victor Stanhope? I asked. That I don't know. But I know someone who might. Who? My cousin. Works at the bank. Handles commercial loans. If your boy took out big loans, she'd know about it. I felt a surge of hope. Can you introduce me? Eddie smiled. I already called her. She's meeting us here at noon. We waited. The diner filled up with the lunch crowd. Eddie ordered a burger. I couldn't eat. My stomach was in knots. At exactly noon, a woman walked in. Mid-40s, professional, sharp eyes. She spotted Eddie and walked over. Eddie. Linda. This is Carl. He's the one I told you about. Linda sat down across from me. Eddie says your son took all your money. Every penny. Show me what you've got. I handed her the records. The property filings. The loan documents. The LLC papers. She flipped through them, her eyes moving fast. That Victor Stanhope, she said. I know that name. You do? He's got accounts at my bank. Big accounts. He's a developer. Real estate. Commercial properties. He's been building a portfolio in this array for the last few years. And Derek, she looked at me. Derek is his local front. He's the face of the operation. But Stanhope's the money. He's been using your son to buy properties. Cheap properties. And now he's about to make a killing. How do you know? Because I saw the loan applications. Derek just applied for a massive loan. $100,000 Rs. The collateral is the properties he bought with your money. My mouth went dry. He's leveraging my money to borrow more money. That's exactly what he's doing. And if the deal goes through, he stands to make a fortune. But if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? He loses everything. Including your money. ISTA read at the table. It was worse than I'd thought. Much worse. Derek hadn't just stolen from me. He'd gambled my money. And if he lost, I'd never see a penny of it. We have to stop him, I said. How? Linda asked. He's already in deep. The loan's been approved. It's going through tomorrow. Tomorrow, the paperwork's done. He just needs to sign. I looked at Eddie. He looked at me. We both knew what we had to do. I need to talk to Victor Stanhope, I said. Finding Victor Stanhope wasn't easy. The man was a ghost. No social media. No listing in the phone book. No office address on any of the partnership documents. Just a name on a piece of paper and a bank account that Linda couldn't access without breaking about 12 laws. But I had something better than a phone book. I had patience. And I had Eddie. Eddie had friends everywhere. Old friends, new friends, friends he'd made in bars and diners and union halls. Men who knew things. Men who owed him favors. Men who'd talk for a beer and a handshake. 3 days after my meeting with Linda, Eddie called me. I got a lead, he said. Stanhope's got a house up in the hills. Big place. Fancy. The kind of house where you need a gate code just to get to the driveway. We're off Old Mill Road. Past the golf course. You can't miss it. Looks like something out of a magazine. I wrote down the address and drove up there that same afternoon. The house was exactly as Eddie described it. Big. White. Surrounded by oak trees and perfectly manicured lawns. A black iron gate blocked the entrance, with a keypad on the side. I parked my truck across the street and waited. I didn't know what I was going to say to Stanhope. I didn't even know if he'd talk to me. But I had to try that. I waited for 4 hours. The sun went down. The temperature dropped. My coffee ran out. And then, just as I was about to give up, the gate swung open and a black sedan rolled out. That it was him. Margaret's description matched exactly. The RK sedan. Expensive suit. The CAR turned Tawa RD town, and I followed at a distance that he drove to a steakhouse on the edge of the city. The kind of place with valet parking and a doorman. I watched him hand his keys to the valet and walk inside. I waited another hour. Then I walked in. The place was dark and quiet. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Tables were covered in white cloth. Waiters moved silently between them. I spotted Stanhope sitting alone in a corner booth, nursing a glass of whiskey. That I walked over. Mr. Stanhope, he looked up. Mid-50s. Silver hair. Expensive watch. Cold eyes that looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. Do I know you? No, sir. But you know my son. Derek Morrison. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise. Then caution. What about him? I'm his father. Carl Morrison. I gave him $327,000 Rs 6 months ago. Money he told me he needed to save his failing business. Money he then used to buy properties with you. Stanhope set down his whiskey glass. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Derek formed an LLC with you. Morrison Stanhope Properties. He used my money to buy real estate. And now he's trying to take out a loan against those properties. A loan you're going to help him get. Stanhope leaned back in his booth. His face was unreadable. If what you're saying is true, that's between you and your son. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. My money is tied up in your deals. If I don't get it back, I'm going to make sure everyone knows about it. The press. The banks. The city council. Anyone who'll listen. I saw a flash of anger in his eyes. It was gone as quickly as it read that. I don't respond well to threats, he said. That it's not a threat. It's a promise. I've got nothing left to lose. I'm a 72-year-old man who's been screwed over by his own son. I've got no wife, no savings, no future. The only thing I have left is the truth. And I'll shout it from the rooftops if I have to. Stanhope studied me for a long moment. Then he gestured to the seat across from him. Sit down. Saturday, tell me everything, he said. That I told him. The whole story. Derek's TRS. The money. The business records showing his company wasn't failing. The new truck, the boat, the camper. The text message. The threats. That when I finished, Stanhope didn't speak for a long time. He just swirled his whiskey and read at the ice. That I'm not a good man, he said finally. I don't pretend to be. I buy properties, I develop them, I sell them at a profit. I've made a lot of money doing it. And I've stepped on a lot of people along the way. Are you going to step on me too? He almost smiled. You're not in my way. Your son is. What does that mean? It means I didn't know about the money. Derek told me he had investors. He told me he had funding from a private source. He never told me that source was his elderly father. I felt something shift in my chest. You didn't know. I don't vet my partners' personal lives. I look at the balance sheets. Derek had the capital. I had the connections. We made a deal. That was the end of it. But now you know. Now I know. I leaned four-way road, so help me. Tell me what I can do to get my money back. Stanhope set down his whiskey glass and folded his hands on the table. Derek's about to sign a loan agreement. $100,000 RS. The collateral is the properties we bought together. If he signs that agreement and then defaults, I can force the sale of those properties. And then what? Then I get my money back. The bank gets theirs. And whatever's left goes to Derek. What about me? I'm not part of the deal. No, you're not. Which means you get nothing. My heart sank. So I'm out of luck. Not Nises Riley. Stanhope leaned four-way road. If the properties are resold, there will be a surplus. A profit. That's the whole point of this deal. But the surplus goes to the partners equally. Half to me, half to Derek. And Derek won't give me anything. No. He won't. Then what's the point? The point, Stanhope said, is that I can be persuaded to make a different arrangement. One that involves you getting your money back. How? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business CA road. Call me when you're ready. I'll have my lawyers draw something up. But I need something from you first. What? Stanhope looked me dead in the eye. I need to know that you're not going to blow this up. I need you to keep your mouth shut about our arrangement. If this gets out, the whole deal falls apart. And then nobody gets anything. And if I agree, then I'll make sure you're taken CA of. I'll buy out Derek's share of the partnership and use the surplus to pay you back. But it has to happen quietly. And it has to happen quickly. I walked out of that steakhouse feeling like I just made a deal with the devil. But I didn't CA. I was getting my money back. At least, I thought I was. The next morning, I called Christine and told her everything. The meeting with Stanhope. The deal. The conditions. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, I heard her take a deep breath. Carl, you need to be CA refill with this. CA refill. I'm finally getting somewhere. Stanhope is a businessman. He's not your friend. He's not doing this out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it because he's protecting himself. I don't see why he's doing it. I just want my money back. And I want to help you get it back. But if you make this deal, you're giving up any legal claim you have against Derek. If Stanhope doesn't follow through, you're stuck. You won't be able to sue Derek again. I don't see about suing Derek. I see about getting my money. Christine was silent for a moment. All right. But I want to be part of this. I want to see the paperwork. I want to make sure Stanhope doesn't screw you over. Okay. Whatever you need. I called Stanhope that afternoon and told him I was in. He told me to come to his office the next day. That I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal. The anger. The hope. It was too much. My mind wouldn't shut off. But the next morning, I got up early. I put on my best suit. I drove to Stanhope's office, a sleek glass tower downtown, and took the elevator to the top floor. His office was huge. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A view of the whole city. He was sitting behind a massive desk, waiting for me. Carl, good to see you. He stood up and shook my hand. I've had my lawyers prepare the documents. It's straight for a road. I buy out Derek's share of the partnership. The surplus goes to you. We close the deal, and you walk away with your money. How much? Everything you gave him. Plus interest. I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. I'll sign, I said. Not yet. I need you to give me something first. What? I need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You can't talk about this. Not to anyone. Not to your lawyer. Not to your friends. Not to the press. If you do, the deal's off. I hesitated. Even Christine, especially Christine. She's a lawyer. She'll try to find a way to use this against me. I can't have that. I looked at the document on his desk. It was long. Full of legal language I couldn't understand. But I didn't see a re. I just wanted my money back that I signed. Stanhope smiled. Good. I'll have my lawyers start the process. It should take about a week. Thank you, Mr. Stanhope. Call me Victor. I walked out of that office feeling like I just won the lottery. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice was telling me I'd just made a terrible mistake. That voice got louder when I got home and found a letter in my mailbox. It was from a lawyer I'd never heard of. Fancy letterhead. Official looking. That I opened it with trembling hands. DEA are Mr. Morrison, we are rewriting to inform you that you have been named as a defendant in a pending lawsuit filed by your son, Derek Morrison, regarding a breach of confidence and interference with his business dealings. My hands went cold. The rest of the letter blurred in front of my eyes. Derek was suing me. He'd found out about Stanhope. And now he was using it against me. I called Christine immediately. When I told her what happened, she was silent for a long time. Carl, I told you to be careful. What do I do? Nothing. Don't talk to anyone. Don't sign anything else. And for God's sake, don't talk to Stanhope. I already signed an NDA with him. I know. And that's exactly why your son is suing you. Because he knows you're working with Stanhope. He's trying to trap you. I sat down on my couch and read at the wall. Everything was spinning. I thought I was finally getting somewhere. But I was just a pawn. Everyone was using me. Derek, Stanhope, even the lawyers. But I wasn't done yet. I picked up the phone and called Linda. She answered on the first ring. Linda, I need you to do something for me. What? Need to know everything about Victor Stanhope. Everything. And I need to know it fast. Why? Because I think he's been playing me. And I need to find out what he's really doing before it's too late. Linda met me at the diner the next morning. She looked nervous, the kind of nervous that made me feel like my heart was about to drop out of my chest. She slid into the booth across from me and pulled a thick folder out of her bag. I found something, she said. Something big. Tell me. Victor Stanhope isn't just a developer. He's a shell. A front. He works for a holding company based out of state. And that holding company, it's owned by a trust. And that trust, it's controlled by your son. I read at her. What? Derek doesn't just work with Stanhope. Derek owns Stanhope. He set up this whole thing to hide his money. To make it look like he had a partner. But he's the one pulling the strings. I felt like the floor was falling out from under me. How is that possible? It's complicated. But basically, Derek used your money to buy properties through Stanhope's shell company. Then he used those properties to secure loans. Then he used those loans to buy more properties. It's a web. A big one. And Derek is at the center of it. But why go through all that trouble? Because he wanted to make it look like he was legit. He wanted to look successful. He wanted everyone to think he was a big shot. And he wanted to do it all without you knowing. I sat back in the booth. My hands were shaking. So Stanhope isn't really my enemy. Stanhope is just an employee. He does what he's told. And he's being told to string you along. To do what? Linda leaned four-way road, to keep you quiet. While Derek finalizes the loan. The one I told you about. Once that loan goes through, he'll have enough money to pay Stanhope and walk away. And you'll be left with nothing. My blood ran cold. So the deal with Stanhope was just a stall. A stall and a trap. Derek's lawsuit against you is just another way to keep you busy. To tie you up in court so you can't interfere. I looked at the folder in front of me. Pages and pages of documents. Bank records. Property filings. Trust agreements. It was all there. The whole ugly truth. Can we use this? I asked. If we can use it. But we have to move fast. The loan closes tomorrow. Tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock. At the bank. I looked at my watch. It was almost noon. I had less than 24 hours. What do we do? Linda closed the folder. We need to talk to Christine. And we need to talk to the bank. If we can get the loan delayed, we might have a chance. I called Christine from the diner. She answered on the first ring. Carl, what's wrong? I found out everything. Derek's using Stanhope as a front. He's been playing me the whole time. And the loan closes tomorrow. We're at Millie's diner. Stay there. I'm coming. Christine arrived 20 minutes later. She was wearing jeans and a jacket, not her usual lawyer clothes. She looked like she was ready for a fight. Show me what you've got, she said. I handed her the folder. She flipped through it, her eyes moving fast. When she finished, she looked up at me. This is everything. This is the whole puzzle. Can we stop the loan? We can try. But we need to get to the bank. Now. We drove to the bank together. Linda came with us. She knew the manager. A man named Bill Reeves. Bill was in his late 50s, balding, nervous. He agreed to see us in his office. Christine laid everything out. The fraud. The shell company. The trust. She didn't hold back. She told him everything. Bill listened, his face getting paler by the minute. This is serious, he said. If what you're telling me is true, this loan is based on fraudulent information. Then stop it, I said. Please. Stop it. Bill looked at me. He saw an old man who'd been destroyed by his own son. And something in his face softened. I'll delay the loan, he said. I'll tell Derek there's a problem with the paperwork. That'll give us a few days. Thank you, I said. Thank you. I walked out of that bank feeling like I just won a battle. But the war wasn't over. The next day, I got a call from Derek. Dad. His voice was cold. Flat. Derek. Bill Reeves told me there was a problem with the loan. That it was delayed. And then I found out why. You went to the bank. You talked to him. I did. Are you trying to destroy me? I'm trying to get back what you stole from me. I didn't steal anything. You gave me that money. You lied to me. You used me. And now you're trying to hide your money in shell companies and trusts. I know everything, Derek. I know about Stanhope. I know about the trust. I know about the holding company. I know it all. He was silent for a long time. Then he laughed. A hollow, ugly laugh. You think you're so smart, Dad. You think you've got me cornered. But you don't. What are you talking about? I've been 3 steps ahead of you the whole time. You think I didn't know you were talking to Margaret? You think I didn't know you were going to the courthouse? You think I didn't know about the meeting with Stanhope? I felt a chill run down my spine. You knew? Of course I knew. I know everything. And I know something you don't. What? Emily. Jason. They're not my kids. The world stopped. What? They're Rachel's kids. From before we got married. I adopted them. But I never told you. I didn't want you to think less of me. And I didn't want you to have any claim on them. I couldn't breathe. That's not true. It's true. And that's why I told you to stay away from my family. Because you don't have any right to them. They're not your blood. I hung up the phone. I couldn't listen anymore. I couldn't hear another word. I sat in my chair and read at the wall for hours. The world had just gotten a whole lot smaller. But then something happened. Something I didn't expect. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. I opened it and found Rachel standing there. She looked terrible. Eyes red. Face pale. Carl, she said. I need to tell you something. What, Emily and Jason? They are your grandchildren. Derek lied. He told you that to hurt you. To push you away. ISTA read at her. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm done. I'm done with him. He's not the man I'm alright. He's become someone else. Someone I don't recognize. He took everything from me, Rachel. I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped him. I should have said something. But I was red. I didn't know what to do. I looked at her. She was crying. Real TRS. Not the fake ones Derek had used to take my money to. Why are you here? I asked her. Because I want to help you. I want to make it right. How, Emily and Jason? They want to see you. They miss you. And I want you to be part of their lives again. I felt something break inside me. The wall I'd built around my heart. The anger. The bitterness. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Please. I nodded. I couldn't speak. Rachel pulled out her phone. I have something else. Something that might help you. What? Text messages. Derek and Stanhope. Talking about the shell company. The trust. The fraud. Everything. I saved them all. I looked at the messages. They were damning. Everything Christine needed to prove my case. Rachel, this is gold. I know. That's why I kept them. I called Christine immediately. She came over and root building the case right there in my living room. Rachel gave her everything. Every text. Every email. Every record. It's over, Christine said when she finished. He's done. We'll file a motion tomorrow. The judge will freeze his assets. And then we'll get your money back. I hugged her. I hugged Rachel. I hugged them both. And that's exactly what happened. The trial was short. Derek tried to fight it, but he couldn't. The evidence was too strong. The judge ordered him to pay me back everything. Plus interest. Plus legal fees that he had to sell the house. The boat. The camper. The rental properties. Everything. And on the day I got my money back, I went to see my grandchildren. Emily and Jason ran to me. They hugged me tight. They didn't say about the money. They just wanted their papa. Carl. Derek wasn't there. He'd left town. Nobody knew where he'd gone. And I didn't say I had what mattered. My family. My grandchildren. My dignity. And I had a lesson I'd never forget. You can't buy love. You can't buy loyalty. You can't buy the people who are supposed to be there for you. But you can fight for them. And sometimes, if you're lucky, they'll fight for you too. The day I got my money back, I didn't feel rich. I felt free. Free from the anger. Free from the bitterness. Free from the weight I'd been carrying for so long. Rachel and I talked that night. She'd left Derek. She was filing for divorce. She and the kids were going to stay with her sister until she could get back on her feet. Carl, she said, I don't know what's going to happen. But I want you to know. I want you in their lives. No matter what. Rachel, I wouldn't have it any other way. I went home that night and sat in my living room. Ridha's picture was on the mantel. Sorry it took me so long, I said. But I figured it out. I thought about Derek. About the boy he used to be. The boy who'd laughed and played and told me he loved me. I didn't know where that boy went. Maybe he was still in there somewhere. Maybe he'd find his way back. But I wasn't going to wait for him. I had a life to live. Grandkids to spoil. And a future to build. That night, I slept better than I had in yet rs. And when I woke up the next morning, the first thing I did was call Eddie to, "Hey," I said. "You want to go fishing?" The moral of the story is simple. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But don't let them break you. Don't let them turn you into someone bitter and cold. Because the best revenge isn't getting your money back, it's getting your life back. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? Have you ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours? Tell me your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Because every story matters. And every voice deserves to be heard. Subscribe for more real-life stories that will inspire you to keep fighting.